Hello again, welcome back. We are going to have another look at IL2 Cliffs of Dover Blitz Edition. And today we're going to do the second video, which will be a look online. So I'm going to join the ATAG server here. It's just after midday in Europe on the weekend. And you can see there's not a huge player base, despite the update. There have been some problems with lag and whatnot, but they are apparently testing today a fix for the lag and the netcode. So I'm going to join the server and see what it's like. We'll play through the entire joining process here so you can see what the server join times are like. I have a ping of about 130 to 150 to this server normally. It's based in the United States and I'm in Central Europe. So you'll get a flavor for loading times. One thing I wanted to discuss before we actually kick off the flight is something I learned in the last week. And that is that apparently the tree collision is dependent on your graphics options. The options for trees have a high, medium and low setting. Those players playing with a low setting will actually have less trees rendering. And because the trees are collidable, that means those players will have fewer things they can collide into. A player with low tree options can theoretically fly through a gap in the trees, whereas another player with a high setting would actually collide with a tree in the same location. So that's a bit of a strange sort of disconnect between different players there. I hope they look to resolve that. You can see it could create all sorts of problems in low level combat. My suggestion therefore to everyone is basically just fly with low trees, although in this video I will be flying with the trees on high for the sake of having the same awareness and the same potential dangers as your foes. It probably pays to fly certainly online with low tree setting. So we're just waiting a bit longer here. This is taking much longer than it used to take in 4.312 to join a server. I used to have about a 20 to 25 second wait. There we go, we're in, so it's not hugely longer, and it's probably comparable with most other games, flight sim games anyway. Okay, so there's about 40 in the server, even teams, so I'm going to select the RAF side, and I'm hoping that I have access to a Spitfire 1 or a 1A100 or a 1A, because I only have key bindings for those aircraft, so if there's no 1A or 1A100, then I'm stuffed. There's a 1A here. We'll take that. Got to pull the fuel back a little bit. You'll see you spawn actually now with more than your recommended takeoff weight. So I'm just going to pull that back to about 95%, and we'll spawn in up at Manston. In we are. So a bit of cloud today. And just having a bit of a scan around to make sure the sky is not full of Messerschmitts, which it appears not to be. So let's get started. Now, to start these aircraft, obviously radiator open, you need to set to about 12 or 13% on your throttle. Now, because this throttle setting actually does not register on the boost gauge, you need to use a visual cue over here. So set the square plate at the base of the throttle just slightly forward of the center of this circular bobble here. So about there. That is, actually it's about close, a bit closer back. That's about what you want. In fact, it's almost directly in line. So once that's set, we can turn on the magnetos and the fuel cock, put the brakes in and start the engine. Now we have to wait until we get to 22 degrees on the oil, which means we've got quite a wait ahead of us. In 4.312, you used to have to wait about 10 seconds. Now it takes forever, so I'm going to close the radiator now whilst we warm up, and then I will open it before we start the takeoff roll. Do not forget to open your radiator again. Now you'll see the mirror is not working. It's just a frame. There is a bug with the mirrors. Apparently you just if you join a server and your mirror doesn't show, you actually have to quit the game and restart the game, and then you'll get a mirror, or you may or may not get a mirror, and it's a matter of trial and error, restarting the game again and again till you get a mirror. I'm not going to bother restarting again and again here. We're just going to have to accept the fact that for me, for this join, my mirror is broken. So I'm going to turn it off entirely. There are some clickable parts of the cockpit now. So I'm actually going to decrease my gun sight range here to about 280, 270, and okay, that one's not clickable. So, oh yes, it is 32 feet. Most of the stuff on the cockpits is clickable. So we're still waiting for the oil temperature. We're at 15 degrees. Now you can get a flavour for how long this thing takes to warm up. It's considerably more tedious than it used to be, and considerably less historical. The RAF actually employed people for the specific task of warming these aeroplanes up if they were on the scramble flight line, so that the pilots could jump in the airplane, hit the ignition and get going. But we don't have the benefit of that. We have to wait for a cold start. There is no option for a hot start, which leaves me sitting here trying to think of things to discuss. I will soon be closing the canopy. I'm just looking around all the time while I'm on the ground, because there's always a risk of a Messerschmitt coming down and giving you one. If you look at the clouds, you'll see that they rotate. As I turn the track IR, the clouds rotate. That's because, like most other sims at the moment, they're just using basically textures, and the textures just point their flat surface at you. So if you rotate your head, the textures rotate with you. It's the same in DCS, it's the same in X-Plane. I'm pretty sure it's the same in the box series. We are waiting for the first sim to come up with a nice fully particle-based clouds, and then we will no longer have to put up with this ridiculous rotation system. You can see in the top right-hand corner of my screen here, as I move the head just to the right, large sort of portions of the cloud try to poke into view, and they don't just sort of rotate in evenly as you would expect. The sort of rotational velocity there is far too great. You can see the parallax between these two clouds. I just can't work out how to do it. Okay, we should nearly be at temperature now. We can probably push the throttle up a bit to 20 degrees. 20% rather. Now when you decide to throttle forward, basically just ram the throttle. If you push it forward gently, it starts coughing like it just did. Let's open the radiator here. You've just got to push it all the way to about 100. There we go. We are good to go. And the ground roll on grass is quite bumpy. The wings tend to rise and fall. But on concrete, and I've tried this, on concrete it is nice and smooth. Okay, so we are up. Just going to reduce my prop and throttle. Gear is up. Flaps are in the up position. Canopy is closed. And I'm going to start climbing basically towards Dover Hawkinge. I'm going to go inland a little first. And I'm already experiencing my first little lag stutters. Just had a bit of a stuttery, laggy stutter then. Now we can actually have a look at some of the buildings back there. And you can see that the buildings nearest to the water have kind of greyed out, and the pier which forms this harbour, that is greyed out to the point of almost disappearing. The buildings closer in here are a higher resolution, and they will actually, the ones in the background, they'll actually just disappear. They'll flick out of view at about 5 kilometres. It's very close. The render distance is not very great at all. In fact, if you're flying around at about 8 to 10,000 feet, you won't see these buildings. entering a bit of low cloud. When the clouds are static, i.e. when they're not moving at all relative to you, so if you could pause the sim, the clouds actually look very nice. The problem is, they do this. I mean, this is me turning my head. It's just insane the way they just cannot work out where they should be rendering. And so, despite looking quite good when they're static, as soon as you start flying near them or through them, it just turns into an absolute mess. And you can see I'm in the cloud when I look this way, but I'm out of the cloud when I look this way. The clouds cannot work out what to do. They don't know if I'm in them or out of them. This one here, that's just me rotating my head. I'm not zooming in or out. It's a very disorientating and strange effect. So you can see at a distance they look quite nice, but up close it's a bit of a nightmare. Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. That's only me turning my head. Far away, close up. Anyway, we could show that for hours. It's like watching a bit of a circus. We've seen enough now. Okay, let's climb towards the coast, slightly to the south and west. So I'm inland of Dover quite some way here, and I can have a little chat now about another thing with cliffs that is a nice little peculiarity, and that is over in the distance there on Hawkinge Airfield there are a bunch of objects which the mission maker has placed. So they're not native to the map itself, they've been added there just for this mission. And when I zoom out, they actually show as a series of black dots that are very, very visible. And I know that they've been placed by the mission maker because of that. If I zoom in, the dots obviously stay the same size, but they sort of separate from each other because of the field of view, and they become less visible. But none of the other buildings at all in that area are visible to me. The buildings in the town of Hawkinge itself are almost disappeared, but the buildings and objects that have been placed by a mission maker will have these very, very obvious black dots, which if you are a mission maker, it makes hiding your targets almost impossible. They can be seen from a very long way away. Okay, so the mission I was in the middle of flying in that previous section of the video ended, unfortunately, before I could make it to the coast. So I have respawned, and it is a new mission, and I'm going to climb up and head back out to the coast and basically sort of continue from an imaginary where I left off. So we'll get airborne and I'll see you shortly. So I've got a few contacts which appear to be coming in towards England, the south coast, from the direction of France. There is quite a lot of aerial activity over here between about 1,000 and 6,000 or 7,000 feet. It looks like a scrap just off the coast of Hawkinge. I do have one contact quite low, which could be a 20, but he's just veering back into this other fur ball here. So I'm going to basically climb towards it. I'm going to try and stay above it if I can until I get close. Reduce the radiator here. It's a bunch of what I believe are ships. You can see the dots, the black dots over there. And I'm now approaching this dogfight, which is 5 aircraft at my 11 o'clock position. I am going to maintain my climb here. So the aircraft now almost visible. I've got fighters everywhere, and the top one there is probably a 109 going up. There is nothing here that's higher than me. I've just been barreling straight towards this fight. Flak burst. I need to keep an eye out off to the right. There is a contact out there, but that's where anything that's going to be arriving from the German side will come from. Get my boost cutout on. And I'm going to focus on this top 109 over here. It appears to be on the tail of possibly a bow fighter. Okay, there's my carburetor just cutting. Okay, this 109. Just dropped underneath me there. Unable to. I'm going to roll up over the top here. You may actually be about to go in. Actually hard for me to tell if he's running home or not. He's just ditched in the sea over there. And that looks like a 110, I think. No, it's a friendly bow fighter. And there is another aircraft diving. In fact, another 2 aircraft diving out of the sun behind me. I'm going to keep heading back towards friendly territory here. Flak burst. That's a 109. Okay, there is a 109 back there, but I don't have the height to engage him. I'm much too low. So I actually just have to be patient for a minute and try and gain a bit of height so I can head back in. Yeah, they're still much higher than me, everything over there. Those guys are pretty much co-out, they just merged. And there's another one, I think, up high. No, we've got flak burst. Okay, I may be able to go and have a look now. Got to be very careful going back into a dogfight unless you've got superior altitude. There is a 109 up there. Quick check of the temperatures. I'm going to pull my prop hitch back. Okay, here we go. There's 2 aircraft down here scrapping. There is another one up there arriving from the German side. I'm going to try and help this guy out. Even if it just means, oh, no, 2 of them diving in, very heavy. Yeah, 109's diving in. So I got to stop this attack. Cannot afford to go in and get underneath those guys and get demolished if you do that. The next one's arriving from France now. He's also barreling in, so I don't think they know that I'm here. They're trying to go in and finish that guy off and end that fight quickly. This is my chance to get a squeeze in here. Okay, there's a 109. He's about to climb up in front of me. That Spitfire's about had it. Maybe able to get guns on this 109 for a second here. Maybe. Okay, boost cutout off now. Yeah, he's right on that Spitfire, poor bugger. And now he's braking off. Oh, he's got a good brake on. Ah, these guys. Very high roll rate. I've blacked out. I wonder if he blacked out as well. Okay, I've recovered. Time to get out of here. Aircraft falling out of the sky behind me. That's a 109. My 6 is clear for the moment, so I can actually do a little bit of climbing and perhaps circle back in to that fight. Just unable to follow that 109 before. Ended up having to pull massive amounts of G to try and follow him, and I was unsuccessful. Got a spitty coming in here. And those chaps that were fighting here have started heading back home. They're climbing though, so I'm going to stay basically here just off the coast. Try and gain as much height as I can. Okay, this fight has ended. And there are a couple of contacts over in this direction. Yep, looks like we've got aircraft making merges on each other over here. So I'm going to go and investigate. The top of the two is still climbing. Okay, he's topping out at about this altitude here, which is 8,000 feet. And those aircraft are now coming back towards me. Yep. The boom and zoomer is up over there on the horizon. Just above the horizon now at my 11 o'clock. Let's see if he keeps going up. Or will I actually have a height advantage on him now? Okay, I'm co-op with him now, and he's at the top of his climb. No, he's still going up. Okay, he's just doing a gentle climb away. I think he knows I'm on my way here. So he's refusing to get stuck in with that Spitfire at a low level, and that Spitfire is in fact climbing after him, so that dogfight over there is going to keep getting higher and higher and higher, which means I don't stand a chance. Cannot outclimb the 109. Contact. Probably a 109, just over here, going the other way. Going to give the boost cutout a kick. Now what is it? I think that's a 109. Appears to be climbing. Yeah, it's a 109. There's the wings of a 109. So I'm going to head out this way. I'm not going to turn in towards him. Don't really want to get too much inside his turn and wind up with a very stiff angle. I want to lag him a bit. Here we go. Now I can just wing over. There we are. It's better. Okay, see if I can get a couple of shots on him here. Nope. Don't have the angle. It's going to be a head-on. Well, it looks like he wants to stay and fight. Or does he? Out of trim. He appears to be diving away to the right. Okay, I've got another contact behind me too. So if this guy's trying to drag me, he's probably going to do a good job here. Okay, he's below me now. So he's just running away. Watch him climbing. Seems to have a mate over there. Yeah, I think he's going to try and turn me back towards his mate. Yeah, he is. He's trying to get me to fly away north, which I'm not going to do. Well, actually, that's east, so I'm going to... turn up like this. There's the second contact over there. Yeah, he was definitely trying to drag me back towards a friend. So, I'm just going to avoid that engagement. So I've got a contact I've been keeping an eye on my very long 6. And he appears to be just a fraction lower than me, but he's been higher than me, so I think he's put his nose down to try and gain a little airspeed and close the gap. Does appear to be rather interested in me. So, I'm going to try and point myself at him now. And go up a little bit. He's over there. Okay, he's now down here. And it does appear that he's got squarish wings. I think that's a 109. Yeah, I think it is. Or is it a Spitfire? Hard to tell. What is he chasing? Ah, there's a Spitty down there that he's engaging. There we go. He was definitely hostile, and he's just made a pass on a Spit, but he's been unable to get contact, get hits on. So now he's climbing away, and he's in fact just rolled inverted underneath me here, which may present me with an opportunity as long as I don't overshoot. Yeah, I should be okay, just to close a little. Okay. Don't know if he's seen me. Oh, right rudder. Okay, I definitely got some hits on him then, but don't think I did any serious damage. And he is very focused on that other Spit, so... Got full left rudder in here, so you can see I've got no rudder authority up here. There we go, got his rads. This guy is going to have a real hard day trying to get home with that damaged aeroplane. Touched his wingtip there. Firing low. Ooh. Okay. Right, so my convergence is clearly set way too far out. You can see my rounds were basically converging past his cockpit. I tend to open fire at probably around 150 to 180 yards. And you can see that my rounds were not really scoring the ones that were on target. Of course, I was firing above and below there, but the ones that were getting close to him were all converging past him. So I've got my convergence set to 275 meters, and it looks like I'm going to need to bring that back to about 200, I would say. So there we go, we've been awarded that victory, and the person who was flying that 109 decided to leave the aeroplane before it crashed. So it shows as an AI, but that's just a human exiting the aircraft. We will now land. Because I'm out of ammo with my miserable shooting. And I do have Little Stone dead ahead. Actually, I think I'm going to use Lim, because Lim is a bit further away, has bigger runways, and does not have buildings right next to the bloody runway. I'm just bleeding off speed doing this. Still got 230 on the clock, so we'll do an orbit. That's at 160. Can actually start putting some sauce in now. And then we roll back around facing the threshold. have a little bit of a look at the seams between the river and the land textures there. You can see the joins. Just getting a bit of a feel for the graphics on the land textures. And I'm going to go around here, so we'll have another bit of a look at this airfield and the resolution. You can see there's sort of a village land texture over there, but it doesn't actually have any buildings on it. There's quite a few parts of the clod map where it's unclear to me whether they never got around to finishing the map, or whether they did intend to put buildings on those building plots, or whether they intended to remove the building plots later but never got round to it. But there are these 2D kind of painted buildings just on the ground with no 3D structures on top of them. And there appears to be a pond right there. That's a bit of a tricky landing. I'm going to be lowering the gear in a second. You can see the threshold coming up over here. Gear down. Flaps down. Throttling off a bit. Yeah, 100's fine. I'm quite quick here. Don't mind being fast. In fact, I'm way too quick, but that's fine because we'll get rid of that by doing this. Okay, now we're just going to fly down. Got to hold the nose up, try and get that tail down, but not climb away. Okay, sort of hold that off. Ground handling's really quite nice in these. I don't know if it's historical, but it's easy. It's nice and easy. I don't know how accurate that is, but certainly there's no real difficulty taxiing these things around. There we are off. So at the moment that held pretty well for me, that multiplayer experience. I didn't have the noticeable massive lags that people have been reporting, and apparently this evening, being the 23rd of December, they are going to test a fix for that, for those that have been experiencing it. Mag's off. I'll turn the fuel off now too. There we go, open up the canopy. So I think I can claim one victory and one shared / damaged 109 in that sortie. That's a look at the flying in the multiplayer. There's just a couple of other things I'd want to have a look at before we call it a day, and that's just to have a look around the cockpit here. You can see basically when we zoom in the age of these cockpit textures. It's very evident that this game was made 5 to 10 years ago. These textures are, I think, all the original ones. Those are not reflections there. Those are just baked on pale sections. This is actually a two-dimensional texture. There's a seam quite obvious there. You can see it's quite pixelated. Some of the instruments are in fact unreadable. The ampermeter here, that's charge. It does say charge, but it's close to unreadable. Not that that's a particularly important instrument. Some of the text, this text here on the reflector sight, for example, is very difficult to read. And then there's the Maddox Games nut there, which is actually easy to read. Seems a bit weird. Looking down here, you can see how pixelated some of these things are. But that's just the age of the platform. If you have an older system and you're having trouble getting good frames on some of the newer sims, then Cliffs of Dover is actually worth a shout because it runs really well on older systems. I have a relatively good new-ish system. This machine was built about a year ago, or a year and a half ago, and I can get all the frames I need. Let's just have a listen. We've got aircraft taking off from, I think, back there, and this guy landing. Let's watch this guy come in and land here. One bounce. 1.5 bounces, left wheel off. Not too bad. And he's just shut his engine down during the roll. Why not? Make it a low pass here. Those external engine sounds, the Merlin engine sounds, are very, very good. I think this is the best sounding Merlin from that flyby that I have ever heard in a game. It's very nice. And even now when it's in the distance, it's still roaring away. It doesn't sound like an audiophile they've built using a synth. It sounds like they've actually managed to get hold of a recording of a Merlin flying by. It's very nice. Okay, there was my first sort of main multiplayer experience really from Woe to Go. We didn't really get to see too much. I may make a couple more Cliffs of Dover videos if people are keen. I guess in future it'll be, I guess, more tactical type talk and less reviewing talk. There was really not much reviewing happening in this video here. I'm just zooming in so people can see what the buildings and things and the airfield looks like here. So there we go. Thanks for watching, everyone. And if you want me to see to play more Cliffs of Dover and you want to see more Cliffs of Dover on the channel, I will probably oblige. I won't be playing a whole lot of this, but I will be dabbling now and then. As usual, everyone, good luck and happy hunting.